Forward! March!
Hey there, Revere 311, former Marine infantryman, Revolutionary War reenactor, and amateur history enthusiast. And with this year commemorating the 250th anniversary of the start of the American Revolution, I thought we'd take a look back at how was the backbone of the Continental Army organized in the summer of 1775, and that will be the Infantry Regiment. The goal of this video is to provide you a quick yet informative overview of how units were organized during the American Revolutionary War. If you like this sort of content, please think about subscribing, like, comment, share, you know what to do. And without further ado, let's begin the video. Before the Continental Army was officially formed, there was the New England Army, a loose coalition of colonial militias from Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. This wasn't a standing army, it was a collection of local militiamen and Minutemen called up in direct response to the British march on Concord in April of 1775. These men rallied after the opening shots at Lexington and Concord and quickly moved to surround Boston, where British troops under General Gage were garrisoned. Let's break down some key points about the New England Army. First, it wasn't yet the Continental Army. This force operated under the authority of individual colonial governments and provincial Congress, not the Continental Congress. It was a regional force with no unified national command. Second, the command structure was improvised and sometimes chaotic. General Artemas Ward of Massachusetts took initial command of the forces around Boston. Other prominent leaders included Israel Putnam of Connecticut, William Prescott, and John Stark, all experienced officers in their own right, but operating without a central chain of command. Third, these forces played a crucial role in the siege of Boston. After Lexington and Concord, New England troops effectively trapped the British in Boston, cutting off land access and forcing a long standoff. This siege made it clear that the colonies needed a unified professional army. Finally, the New England Army became the foundation of the Continental Army. When the Second Continental Congress convened in May of 1775, it formally took control of the siege forces. On June 14th, Congress created the Continental Army, and the next day appointed George Washington as the commander-in-chief. In short, the New England Army was the first real American field army of the war. Though regional and loosely organized, it set the stage for a national fighting force and helped turn rebellion into revolution. Before we dive in, a caveat. It's important to say in the summer of 1775, there really wasn't a clear or standard way to organize a regiment. Each colony did things a little differently, and there was a lot of confusion early on. That said, Massachusetts supplied most of the troops around Boston, and their regiments became the example others often followed. So in this section, we'll look at what a typical 10-company Massachusetts regiment looked like. Just keep in mind, this is a general model, not a strict rule. At full strength, these regiments were expected to have around 599 men, split across 10 companies, with leadership, support staff, and enlisted man each playing a critical role. So let's go over the command leadership. First with the field officers. The colonel, the senior officer of the regiment, he was responsible for overall leadership, strategy, and coordination. In battle, he directed the regiment's movements and ensured discipline and readiness. This was a political and military role, often filled by somebody with standing in the community. Lieutenant Colonel, second in command, he assisted the colonel and often commanded a wing or half of the regiment in battle. If the colonel was absent or incapacitated, the lieutenant colonel stepped into full command. Major, third in line. The major acted as an executive officer overseeing daily routines, managing drills, and helping coordinate between companies. He often handled the logistics of movement and camp setup. Let's move on to the support backbone, the staff officers. The adjutant, the regiment's administrative officer, he handled all orders, correspondence, and reports. Think of him as the regimental secretary who kept everything organized. The quartermaster, responsible for logistics and supplies, he oversaw the distribution of food, clothing, tents, and ammunition. Without a functioning quartermaster, the regiment couldn't eat or fight. The surgeon, the head medical officer, he treated the wounded and managed the general health of the troops. Surgeons had a tough job, often performing field amputations and trying to keep disease at bay. Two surgeons' mates, these are assistants to the surgeon, helping with everything from wound care to preparing medicines. They were crucial during and after battles when casualties spiked. The chaplain, a spiritual and moral guide, he led religious services, prayed with the troops, and provided comfort to the sick and dying. Next up, let's look at company-level officers, the commanders of the line. Each regiment had 10 companies, and each company was led by a captain. The company commander, he was responsible for training, discipline, and leading his company into battle. Lieutenant, second in command of the company, he helped lead in combat and often oversaw daily duties like posting guards or supervising meals. Ensign, the junior officer, traditionally in charge of carrying the company's colors, the flag. He was often a young officer in training and assisted the captain and lieutenant as needed. Next up, let's look at our non-coms, our non-commissioned officers, the backbone of discipline. Sergeants, you had 4 per company. They were experienced soldiers who kept order, drilled troops, and passed along commands in battle. They were the main bridge between officers and enlisted men. Corporals, you had 4 per company. Junior NCOs who helped manage small groups, enforce discipline, and train the privates. They often led fire teams or squads. Musicians, communications, and morale. Drummer, 1 per company. Essential for battlefield communication. Drummers signaled commands like advance, retreat, or reload. They also played for camp duties, like waking up troops or calling for meals. Fifer, 1 per company. Played the fife, a high-pitched flute-like instrument. Alongside the drummer, the fifer provided signals and boosted morale with martial tunes. And finally, the backbone of the fighting force was the private. There were 46 per company. Their duties and responsibilities were many. Stand in the line of battle. The private's main job was to form up shoulder to shoulder with his company and fire volleys on command. Drill constantly. He practiced marching, loading, and firing as part of a larger unit. Discipline and timing were everything. Follow orders. He obeyed commands from his officers and non-commissioned officers without question. Guard duty. He stood watch at camps, roads, and key positions to watch for enemy movement or protect supply lines. Fatigue duty. He helped build fortifications, dig trenches, cut firewood, and carry water or supplies when not fighting. Camp maintenance. He cooked his own food, cleaned his own gear, and looked after his musket and equipment. Pulling back to the regimental level, let's look over the total breakdown. We have 33 officers, field, staff, and company. 6 regimental staff, 80 NCOs, sergeants and corporals, 20 musicians, and 460 privates. 599 total soldiers in the regiment. And there we have it. That will close out today's video. Just a quick down and dirty overview of a Continental Regiment from the summer of 1775. Again, with the caveat is that there's a lot of variation between the colonies, but we're using the Massachusetts model as they were the backbone of the Continental Army at this time. If you like this kind of content, please consider dropping a like, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment down below. If you want to see more of these videos, please let me know. What sort of unit organizations would you like to go over? I plan to go over billets at some point as well, like what was included in the private's daily tasks, what equipment did he have, what was he fighting for, stuff like that. I'll close out today's video with reading the Oath of Enlistment from June of 1775. Enjoy, and until next time, take care. I, Paul Revere, have this day voluntarily enlisted myself as a soldier in the American Continental Army for 1 year unless sooner discharged, and I do bind myself to conform, in all instances, to such rules and regulations as are or shall be established for the government of the said army.